The UN Special Envoy Hans Grunberg expressed his fears about Yemen being dragged into a Middle East conflict, which is ongoing in the region, in the UN Security Council briefing yesterday. This report has more details.
Yemen risks being dragged further into the military escalation in the Middle East that keeps intensifying and could spiral out of control, the UN Special Envoy for the Arab world's poorest nation said in the UN Security Council meeting on Tuesday. Hans Grunberg said that regrettably Yemen is part of the escalation, and he warned that repeated attacks on international shipping by its Houthi rebels have significantly increased the risk of an environmental disaster in the Red Sea.
Since my last briefing to this council, Nasrallah has continued their attacks on international shipping and made multiple attempts to target Israel with missiles and drones. These repeated attacks, including the recent strikes on tankers, have significantly increased the risk of an environmental disaster, a disaster that was narrowly avoided after the attack on the motor vessel Sunyon.
Both Grunberg and the UN's acting humanitarian chief Joyce Missoya urged the Houthis to halt their attacks on international shipping, which the rebel group began to support fellow Iranian-backed militant group. The UN officials also demanded the release of dozens of UN personnel, staff of non-governmental organizations and diplomatic missions, and members of civil society, most detained since June.
In Yemen, Nasrallah continues to hold United Nations personnel, civil society workers, and staff of diplomatic missions in arbitrary detention. With all this said, I echo the urgent call of the Secretary General. An immediate ceasefire and regional de-escalation is needed to halt this widening conflict.
Missoya called the Houthis' recent referral of a significant number of those detained for criminal prosecution unacceptable and accusations against them false. She said 3 are UN personnel, 2 from the Paris-based UN Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, and 1 from the Geneva-based UN Human Rights Office.
I would like to start once again by demanding the immediate and unconditional release of the UN personnel, NGO staff, and members of civil society arbitrarily detained by the Houthis since June this year, as well as our UN colleagues detained since 2021 and 2023.
Days after the June detentions, the Houthis said those being held were members of what they called an American-Israeli spy network, an allegation which was strongly denied by the UN NGO organizations, governments, and others.